Hello and welcome to a special edition of the Buds All Day podcast. I'm Sats Mundine here with Lebda's Legacy.
How's it going, guys?
And we've got a trade to break. The Toronto Maple Leafs have traded for forward Riley Nash from the Columbus Blue Jackets for a 7th round pick, which could become a 6th rounder if he plays more than 25% of the Leafs games in the playoffs. Now, this trade is obviously bigger than it is on the surface. Lebda, can you break it down for us?
Yeah, so basically on the surface, Riley Nash coming over $2.75 million on the cap hit. Now, he is out an estimated 4 to 6 weeks with an injury. So what that means is the Leafs will place him on a long-term injury reserve. So basically his cap hit doesn't count. Now, there was an additional move by the Leafs needed. Nothing has been confirmed at this point, but it's all but assumed that Fred Andersen has also gone on to long-term injury relief. So basically, in order to accommodate Riley Nash's salary, even though it's not going to count against the Leafs cap, they had to make it work at the time of the trade. So Fred Andersen's $5 million coming off the salary cap going on to LTIR brings in enough room to bring in Riley Nash. And then as soon as that trade goes through, he goes immediately onto the Leafs long-term injury reserve list, which basically essentially frees up $7.75 million in long-term injured reserve space for the Leafs to use at the trade deadline. So that is a nice chunk of money to for the Leafs to play around with in the coming days.
Yeah, and it's just worth noting, Riley Nash is a free agent after the year, so this isn't something that's going to affect the Leafs after this season. But like you said, that gives us $7.75 million to play with this year, and this is why the Leafs hired Brendan Pridham, because he is the cap wizard. He wrote down the collective bargaining agreement, and we've seen this time and time again where the Leafs have learned how to find every possible loophole and worked it to their advantage. So this is just another situation like that. So moving forward, if we look at how this could affect us, now with that $7.75 million, that is getting mighty close to the $8 million of one Taylor Hall.
That's kind of the speculation going around Twitter right now. Obviously, that number is insanely close to $8 million. You easily put 2 and 2 together. It makes sense. Now, Fred Andersen going on long-term injured relief. If the Leafs add another roster player, I think over $1.5 million in salary means that both Nash and Andersen cannot come back onto the active roster without another player getting moved out. So that does also open up an opportunity or kind of a necessity for the Leafs to go out and get a goaltender too. We know it's been confirmed that they've looked at Linus Ullmark. So all things really are kind of pointing Taylor Hall in Leafland right now, which just gets me excited there, Sats.
Oh, that gets me right to go. And we've been the number one fans of Taylor Hall. Everybody knows how we feel. We are all aboard the Taylor train. He's been just ravaged with bad shooting luck this year, poor teammates, but his underlying numbers have been great. He's been creating shots, high danger passes, scoring chances at a classic Taylor Hall rate. In my opinion, he's still the same player he was. Maybe not in his MVP season, but he's still obviously an elite level forward. And the Leafs clearly have the opportunity to get him now. And a team like Buffalo isn't going to have to eat as much as they would have, which is probably big for a team like Buffalo, who isn't a cash-strapped team in the like a Florida or something, but definitely every dollar does count for them. So that's huge. Now, I will say one thing. Kyle Dubas does kind of move like a thief in the night sometimes, where everybody thinks he's going to do one thing and he just does something completely out of left field. So if tomorrow the Leafs trade for Thomas Hertl or something like that, would you be at all surprised?
No, Kyle Dubas, you look at the Jake Muzzin deal, a couple other deals, they just came completely out of left field. Basically what the Leafs are doing here, they're getting as much salary space as they can. We know the Leafs want to upgrade their top 6. It's been reported by numerous people that they're doing whatever they can to get the best forward possible. But yeah, who knows? Jaden Schwartz is a name that's been flying around Twitter as well. Looks like maybe he could become available, or people are speculating that he's available. So that could be another kind of name out of left field that could be added. But yeah, basically, Kyle Dubas, as much cap space as he can. Maybe he uses it on one big player and a goalie. Maybe he goes out, gets 2-3 guys, whether that's 2 forwards, a defenseman, and a goalie. Who knows? He's just leaving all the options on the table for him.
Yeah, and like you said, if they make a move for a guy over $1.5 million, that means that they're going to have to keep those two, Andersen and Nash, on injured reserve for the rest of the year. So that really does get me starting to think that, okay, this Fred Andersen thing might be real in that he's either injured enough not to play or the Leafs are just kind of done with him. So as Fred Andersen, someone who's very scared of Fred Andersen in a playoff game, this makes me very happy. I'm going to be so excited if we add that big salary because that means that in all likelihood we're also getting a goalie, and Allmark and Hall is just the perfect fit. You could throw Kerfoot into that deal, which would give us more than enough cap space to take them both on without Buffalo having to retain anything. Or if you're able to keep Kerfoot, you can still do that deal if Buffalo retains about $3 million. So that's obviously the number one deal that's on everybody's list. And that's the one that I truly hope happens just because it doesn't seem like the price is going to be too high for that.
No, I think it's a good mention by you adding Kerfoot. I almost wonder if these deals are the Leafs trying to keep Alex Kerfoot around because Taylor Hall at 50% retained with the amount of salary the Leafs could bring in. That trade could have been like 1-for-1 with Taylor Hall. Obviously, the value isn't there, so we would have added extras, but the salaries would have worked. So I'm wondering if Kyle Dubas and Brandon Prindham are just clearing up room so that they don't have to detract from their current roster. Maybe a Pierre Engvall, maybe or something, a smaller piece like that, and adding a really really impactful player.
So Lebda, let's just say let's look at the two scenarios here. Let's say we do make this trade with Buffalo and we are able to keep Kerfoot. What forward lines are you running for the Leafs?
So I think for that, if we do keep Alex Kerfoot, I think I'm going Hyman, Matthews, Marner, Taylor Hall, Tavares, Nylander when Nylander gets back, and then I'm going Mikheyev, Engvall, Kerfoot, and then probably Thornton, Spezza, Simmons. Now that fourth line is worrisome. So what I would propose in that situation, and maybe this doesn't happen every game because the Leafs have a bit of a cushion, they have a little bit of room, they're guaranteed a playoff spot. So I think this isn't as necessary, but come playoff time, I wonder if you run that fourth line, but never play all three together. Whether you put Tavares Matthews in the center position, whether you just move Jason Spezza up on that Matthews line after a penalty kill where Hyman or something's injured, or not injured, sorry, tired after a penalty kill, and get their minutes that way.
Yeah, and that's definitely possible. And that's not even considering Galchenyuk, and that's not considering Riley Nash, who could be a player on this team. Now, maybe we should go into Riley Nash quickly here. He is a very defensive player. He's an excellent fourth line center as a defensive player. He's in the 99th percentile of defensive players, which means only about 1% of players are better defenders than him. Now, with that said, he's in the 5th percentile of offensive players. So, uh, clearly just a black hole. He's one of the guys where you just throw him out there and you're like, okay, 40 seconds, nothing's going to happen. He's like a fast forward button. So he could come into play for the Leafs in the playoffs if they maybe look at putting him on that Mikheyev Engvall line and kind of treat that as a fourth line that you give a bit of like you give them 8, maybe 10, 12 minutes, but you give them kind of tougher matchups, which would allow the hopefully Taylor Hall line on that second line to kind of feast on third lines as well as the second lines they'd be facing. So the Leafs just have so many options because then, like you said, with keeping Kerfoot, you would have right now, without even considering Nash, you're leaving Galchenyuk, Simmons, or Thornton. One of those guys isn't going to be playing. And then you throw Nash on top of that. Now, this might not even come to play because everybody knows about injuries. So just having a number of available players is always a smart move. But I really do hope that if Galchenyuk keeps playing this way, I can't see any way that you take him out of the lineup altogether.
Yeah, I think what maybe happens then if Galchenyuk keeps up his play, he probably goes on to that third line with Mikheyev and Engvall, gives them a little bit of a scoring option on the rush, someone that they can pass to and can actually put the puck in the back of the net. Then Alex Kerfoot drops down as the fourth line center, most likely. Um, and then you have a couple options on the wing, whether you play Kerfoot on that wing, Riley Nash, if you want a more defensive approach with Jason Spezza there. Um, or you leave Kerfoot in the center. Riley Nash is a scratch. You have Simmons and Thornton, or sorry, Simmons and Spezza, Thornton and Spezza. One of that kind of combination. The Leafs are kind of in a bit of a corner here. This why I think they are going to give up a roster player, just free themselves up with guys like looking for ice time. But like Joe Thornton and Wayne Simmons, both veterans, both on small deals. Jason Spezza too. Jason Spezza is not coming out of the lineup because of how good his play was. Joe
He's
Thornton,
elite.
Wayne Simmons are a little bit more, arguable on that level, but they are like experienced players that you're probably not going to take out of the lineup. But the addition of Riley Nash just gives the Leafs a lot of options to do on that bottom six.
Yeah, and like we said, this deal probably boils a lot more down to his salary than his actual play, but he is a guy who could be valuable, especially in a series against Edmonton. If you can run that Kerfoot, Nash, Engvall line, and they can play 7 to 8 of their minutes against McDavid and play them remotely close to even, that's a win for the Leafs. So all in all, very exciting time for the Leafs. I can't wait for the trade deadline to see what we do, and we will definitely be keeping you guys posted as soon as any other news drops. Do you have any
Yeah,
other thoughts,
absolutely.
Lebda?
No, honestly, like the second this trade happened, the Leafs are doing something big. Whether it's a couple, medium moves that equal something big, or whether it is Taylor Hall, Jaden Schwartz, something, one move that is massive. It's I'll be glued to Twitter for the next couple days. That's for sure.
Absolutely, and let's just hope that whatever forward we get, he comes along with a goalie, or we get like a Jonathan Bernier in a separate deal. So exciting times for Leafs, and we will talk to you guys soon.
Thank you all for listening. Have a good night.